I've been married to Ethan Carter, the Prince of New York, for 3 years, and he's been gone abroad for all three of them, leaving me with nothing but a hollow title and an empty bed. Not even a single text. No call, not even a, "How are you?" It was like I married a ghost in a tailored suit. So what did I do? I turned around and kept myself a little wolf dog. Not a real one, obviously, I mean a man. A drop-dead gorgeous, lean, smirking type of man with sculpted 8-pack abs and a dangerous charm that made my knees weak every time he pulled up his shirt. The kind of man who made me forget, even just for a second, that I was technically still someone's wife. "Baby," I whispered to him once, curled up in the penthouse I bought with my husband's money, "when my dear husband comes back, I'll just use his cash to spoil you." He just grinned. "Okay," he said, like he had all the time in the world to wait for me. I should have known. At a dinner party, I almost blacked out when I saw everyone standing around him, respectfully calling him Prince. And that voice, low and husky, like velvet over gravel, whispered in my ear, "Be good, do it again." My eyes were already red, fingers curled into his collar. Wait. What if someone finds out?" I gasped. "My husband's flying in tomorrow. Don't make it too obvious." He smirked, eyes gleaming like he was enjoying the game. Okay. Later that night, lying tangled in sheets and his arms, I traced lazy patterns over his abs, still breathless. I touched them 100 times and still couldn't get enough. Sue me. I'm human. Lust is human nature. It's not my fault he seduced me with that sinful waist and a 6-star smile. I chased him, pampered him, spoiled him rotten. Time, money, here got it all. And he knew exactly what he was doing. I remember once, as my hand drifted lower, he suddenly caught it, pinning me with those magnetic eyes. "Mia," he said, voice like dark honey, "what if your husband finds out about us?" I blinked at him, lifted my head from his chest, and said calmly, "Then I'll divorce him." He looked genuinely surprised. "You don't love him?" I gave him a sly smile, leaned up, and kissed his jaw. "Are you jealous?" He didn't answer, but I knew the answer. I curled my fingers against his chest, all pout and mock innocence. "My husband's a beast," I said dramatically. "He hoards the bathroom but doesn't even touch me." We got married, and he flew off to LA without a backward glance. 3 years. 3 whole years. How could I possibly love him? "Unlike you, baby. You're here for me in sunshine and rain." His hand gently stroked my hair as I rested my head on his abs like they were my personal emotional support pillow. "Don't worry," I whispered. "Even if he comes back, you'll always be my sweetheart. My baby. That's never going to change." In the dim light, he stared at me for a long time, thumb brushing my earlobe until I giggled. "Okay," he murmured. After I left the villa I bought just for Chinyai's, that was his name, at least the one he gave May when home, took a long shower and slathered on layers of foundation to cover the mess on my neck. It barely worked. I sighed. It still amazed me how that cold, standoffish boy I met turned into such a jealous, insatiable lover. Back then, when I first flirted with him, he was so aloof, so unreachable. Now he got possessive and extra clingy the moment I smiled at anyone else. Like last night I got jealous over nothing, and now I'm still walking funny. My phone dinged. A text from Mrs. Carter, my dear mother-in-law, asking me to pick Ethan up at the airport. Her tone? Ice-cold polite. "Go early. Don't be late. Ethan doesn't like you to begin with. Wear something nice. Ask Mrs. Grace to make sure everything's ready." I rolled my eyes and tossed my phone aside. On the drive to the airport, I got a news push notification. New York Prince Ethan Carter and Vanessa Blake, heiress of the Blake family, returned from LA together. Could they be rekindling their old romance? There was a picture paparazzi swarmed around the airport entrance. Of course. Here we go. What people didn't know. I'm actually the real daughter of the Blake family, only found at age 18 after being raised in the slums. Technically, Vanessa and Ethan were supposed to be childhood sweethearts. She was the original bride. I was the substitute. No wonder Ethan resented me. The day we got married, he didn't even look back. Flew off with Vanessa like I was a pit stop on their star-crossed love story. The past 3 years, I heard every rumor about them. I just didn't care. I lived well, spent his money, spoiled myself and my wolf dog. Fine, we were both cheating. Equal footing, right? Ethan probably returned this time to hand me divorce papers. I was ready. I didn't love him. I'd never even really seen him. But when I got to the airport, it was quiet. Too quiet. Not a paparazzi in sight. I double-checked the time, the flight number, everything matched. I was on time. But there was no Ethan. As I turned to leave, a sleek black Pagani pulled up. Out stepped Nathan Reed, Ethan's secretary. He walked up to me and bowed politely. "Madam, Sir landed early and already went back to the Carter estate. He asked me to tell you not to wait." I smiled sweetly. "Tell him not to sleep too deeply tonight." Nathan choked and practically ran back to the car. I watched him go, smirking, before heading home. Later that night, I went to the Carter estate. The moment I walked into the living room, I was hit with laughter and soft piano music. Vanessa sat beside Mrs. Carter like she'd never left, perfectly composed. When I entered, the room turned to ice. "Mia, you're here, Mrs. Carter said, gesturing to the couch. I sat and spoke calmly. "Mom, I went to the airport exactly at the time you told me, but Ethan was already gone." Mrs. Carter looked slightly awkward. My mistake. Must have mixed up the schedule." "So he's back?" I asked. A voice answered before she could. "Wife, did you miss me?" It was deep, smooth, and sent a shiver down my spine. I looked up. There on the second-floor terrace stood a man in a scarf, mask, and baseball cap. His face was completely covered, and yet his voice sounded oddly familiar. I narrowed my eyes. "Husband, what's with the disguise? You too ugly to face the public now." He coughed and Mrs. Carter laughed. "Oh, Mia, don't tease. I's just allergic to the dust here." Broke out in a rash. Poor boy's not used to the climate anymore. I blinked. Mrs. Carter added, "Even if you're allergic, son, you can't avoid your wife forever. You've got to reconnect with Mia." Vanessa's expression twisted. "Auntie, Ethan, there's something I've been meaning to say, but I didn't know if I should." Mrs. Carter gave her a fond smile. "Vanessa, you're like a daughter to me. There's nothing you can't say." Vanessa hesitated, glancing at me with mock sorrow. Then she dropped the bomb. "My sister cheated." Thunderous silence filled the room. She pulled out photos of him, entering and leaving my villa with the wolf dog, kissing, hugging, caught by paparazzi. You couldn't see my face clearly, but my custom haute couture outfits were unmistakable. Mrs. Carter's face turned to stone. My heart dropped. I was screwed. It was true Ethan and I were bound to split, but now I'd lose any public sympathy. My already tainted reputation? Finished. Then Mrs. Carter looked at me, eyes locking on the faint hickey peeking from my collar. Her hands trembled. "You, Mom," I started, but Ethan's voice rang out again from upstairs. "Come up. I need to speak with you." Suyen helped Mrs. Carter up. They left the room, and I sat there calculating my options. Across from me, Vanessa leaned closer and whispered, "Sister, you did this. You can't blame me." I sneered. "You're in love with your own brother-in-law. Who's the dirty one here?" Vanessa froze. "We were just getting started." Mrs. Carter came back downstairs not long after, and I swear, it was like someone had flipped a switch inside her. The cold, sharp matriarch from earlier had completely vanished and was now holding my hand like I was her long-lost daughter, her voice warm and syrupy as she said, "Mia, this is all Ethan's fault. He's neglected you for the past 3 years, and we all owe you an apology. You've been alone and strong, and Mom doesn't blame you at all." My brain short-circuited for a second. Vanessa, still sitting nearby, looked like she'd just swallowed a tack. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Auntie," she started to protest, but Mrs. Carter turned to her with a smile so cold it could freeze lava. "Vanessa, Thank you for intercepting those photos, really. But this is a Carter family matter, and it's not something you need to concern yourself with anymore. Vanessa flinched like she'd been slapped. But Ethan says he doesn't care, Mrs. Carter cut her off. He just told me that as long as Mia is still willing to be with him, he'll pretend none of this ever happened. I almost dropped my jaw right there. Ethan? The man who ghosted me for 3 years? The man who was supposedly about to file for divorce and ride into the sunset with his childhood sweetheart? Suddenly now he wants to forgive me? Vanessa looked like she was about to cry, but Mrs. Carter wasn't having it. You just got back too, honey, she said sweetly. Why don't you go home and visit your parents? I'm sure they've missed you. You don't need to be here all the time. Translation: get out. And just like that, Vanessa was dismissed. I was still trying to process what the hell had just happened when Mrs. Carter turned back to me and glanced at the back of my neck. Her voice softened even more. You poor thing, you must be exhausted. I'll make you some chicken soup later to replenish your strength. I wanted to scream. Or cry. Or maybe laugh hysterically. Was she seriously pretending the hickeys on my neck weren't there? Was she now on my team? This woman was so confusing, I couldn't tell if she'd gone soft or was just playing some elite-level mother-in-law 4D chess. Either way, I didn't stick around. I drank the soup like a good girl, made my polite excuses, and let the Carter family's driver take me back to the wedding house. When I got home, I flopped onto my bed, emotionally drained, and checked my phone. A message from Chinyimi Wolfdog was waiting. Mia, I met your husband today. A pause. Then another message. How do you feel about him? I stared at the screen and typed back without thinking. He's ugly, but he has a big heart and a lot of tolerance. I hit send, dropped the phone, and passed out cold. That night, I had a dream about the very first time I met Chani. It was right after Ethan left for LA, 3 months into our sham of a marriage. I was drowning in whispers and judgment from the New York social scene. People called me a nobody, an imposter, the poor girl who somehow tricked Ethan Carter into marrying her. But I didn't care. My husband was gone, my mother-in-law still gave me spending money, and I was free. So I did what any self-respecting abandoned wife would do: hit the bar with my bestie and ordered 3 male models for the night. That's when I saw him. Chin-E. Or what I thought was Chin-E. He was just standing there, a god among men, detached from the chaos, looking like he'd just walked out of a billionaire bachelor photo shoot. Every other man in the room looked like furniture next to him. I was tipsy, reckless, and curious. I stumbled up to him and whispered, "How much?" His expression turned cold immediately. He didn't say a word, just turned to leave, but I was already too far gone to stop. Wow, playing hard to get? I followed him, cornered him against the wall, and ran my hand down his chest. Broad shoulders. Narrow waist. I like that. What about 100 grand? Nothing. 50? Still nothing. 100 again? Still stone cold. So I gave him my sad little speech about how my husband only gave me pocket money and how I was willing to take care of him if he was having financial trouble. Then God help me kissed him. And he didn't push me away. That was how it started. The next morning, I tried to comfort him, thinking he was just some emotionally damaged guy in need of rescuing. I added him on WeChat and began flooding him with texts, compliments, flirty pictures, you name it. He never replied, but I didn't stop. I chased him for almost 3 years, thinking I was the one in control. Turns out I was the one being played. When I woke up the next day from that dream, my inbox was flooded with messages. Chin-E again. Mia, I couldn't sleep without you. Mia, I miss you so much it hurts. I'll come see you later, okay? How could I resist that? I was weak. Weak for him. So I snuck out of the house, bundled up like a criminal, and went to Winston Hill Estate, the villa I'd bought just for him. He had just come out of the shower, a towel slung low around his hips, water still dripping down those infuriating abs. I threw myself into his arms, half crying. Baby, I'm so mad at my husband. He looked confused, cradling me like I might break. What happened? He's such a jerk, I sobbed. He said I'm useless and that I can't live without him. Chinny paused, visibly tense. He said that. Yeah. I nodded like a bobblehead. He's a total narcissist. You should beat him up. Chinny blinked, then said with a straight face, do you want me to? I panicked. No, no, no. We can't afford to offend him. He's got power. I don't want you getting hurt over me. He laughed gently. Okay. I'll listen to you. He lifted me into his arms and carried me to the bed like I was some sort of porcelain doll. I curled up against his chest, like always, nuzzling those abs like a cat claiming territory. Then, just as I was about to fall asleep, he asked, Mia, besides the fact that he left you on your wedding night, why don't you like your husband? I hesitated. His scent dark wood and something spicy wrapped around me as I whispered, he doesn't love me. His heart belongs to someone else. To Vanessa. She's smarter, calmer, more refined. I'm just the pretty one with the body. That's all I am. I felt his whole body go tense beneath me. They grew up together. I was just a replacement bride. I don't even think he looked at me once before vanishing to LA. Maybe they even had a kid together, I muttered, only half joking. Chin-E started coughing. Hard. You okay? I asked. I'm fine, he said, clearing his throat. Let's not talk about that jerk anymore. Tell me how's your waist? His hand slid across my back. I flushed. It's fine now. He held me closer, whispered a few more sweet nothings, and waited until I fell asleep. Once I was out, he quietly got up, walked out of the room, and made a call. Nathan, he said coldly. Find out who spread the rumors about me and Vanessa. Ban every outlet involved. Nathan hesitated. Yes, sir. The next morning, I woke up clinging to him like a koala and refused to let go. Baby, I mumbled, half asleep, I'm gonna divorce that dog man soon. I want to be with you for real. His breath hitched. He didn't say anything, just kissed me gently. I love you, he whispered. I felt warm and safe. I won't be around the next few days, I told him. I think Ethan suspects something. I need to lay low. And you? Don't come to the house, okay? He nodded without complaint. Okay. And don't go find another sugar mama while I'm gone, I grumbled. He chuckled. Never. Just you, baby. We said goodbye after what felt like a million hugs and kisses. But when I got home, I got a message from Mrs. Grace, our housekeeper. Miss, your husband stopped by earlier while you were sleeping. He didn't want to wake you, so he left. What the hell was he doing here? I didn't have time to ask. Later that day, Chin-E called me again. He was extra clingy lately, asking if I missed him, if I touched anyone else's abs, if I'd eaten dinner. I laughed it off, but deep down, I knew something was brewing. That night, I layered up and went back to the villa, only to find Chin-E nursing a cut on his lip. What happened to you? I cried. You got in a fight? He looked away. Don't worry. I'm fine. I messaged him later. You fought Ethan, didn't you? He replied instantly. I wanted to let you vent. I freaked out. Are you insane? Do you know who he is? He'll destroy you. It's okay, he texted back. I'm not afraid of him. But I was. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I had a divorce agreement printed and packed my things. I didn't love Ethan. I had enough money. It was time to run away with my abs. Or so I thought. I couldn't find a single moment to hand Ethan the divorce papers over the next few days. No matter how determined I was always gone, buried in meetings, tangled in back-to-back business deals about some high-stakes merger with the Australian branch, too busy being the responsible, noble CEO he'd never been in our marriage. Which was hilarious considering he couldn't even bother to send me a happy anniversary text for 3 years straight, but suddenly now he was playing the doting son and heir? Yeah, okay, sure, Ethan. And then just when I thought I could finally corner him, Mrs. Carter texted and asked if I could accompany her to some high-profile charity auction dinner being held at Hudson Hall, the kind of place where rich people bid on diamonds and gossip about mistresses in the same breath. I didn't feel like going, but she was being unusually warm lately, and I figured this could be the last time I showed up as Mrs. Carter, so I threw on a sleek dress, did a killer smoky eye, and headed out with her in the town car. As soon as we stepped into the glittering marble lobby, we were greeted by none other than Vanessa Blake, looking like a smug peacock in a couture gown. "Auntie," she purred, "you're here. This church turned hall is newly restored. I came early to check it out. Let me show you around." Mrs. Carter glanced at me, probably checking to see if I'd burst into flames, but I smiled sweetly and gestured for her to go. "It's fine, Mom. I'll be right here. Go enjoy the tour." They disappeared down the corridor, and I found a cozy little spot near the dessert table, pretending to scroll my phone while I people-watched. That's when I saw him. A man in a smoky gray suit, towering above the crowd with an aura so cold and detached it cut through the room like a knife. His posture, his build, even the way he stood, restrained power, effortless dominancy, all screamed Ethan, but it couldn't be. My gaze dropped to the man's wrist, where a rare Graf diamond's watch gleamed under the chandelier. I recognized it instantly, worth 9 figures, auctioned in Toronto years ago. There was no way a struggling escort like my little wool dog could afford something like that. Unless... No. I was overthinking. Maybe someone gifted it to him? Maybe he had a sugar mommy richer than me? I pulled out my phone, half tempted to text him, but right then, the auction began. The usual lineup: paintings, antiques, boring luxury knickknacks, until the final item came up. The pink diamond Polaris. A 12-carat cushion-cut pink diamond, passed down through royal families, with a price tag to match. Starting bid, $30 million, the host declared. The crowd buzzed. Hands flew up. Bidding jumped from 30 to 40 to 60 million in seconds. That diamond was rare, historic, and blindingly beautiful, and I could already see Vanessa shifting in her seat, calculating. Sure enough, her voice rang out, 90 million. Whispers rippled across the room. People turned to stare. Mrs. Carter looked at me, almost teasing. "Mia, darling, do you want it? I'll ask Ethan to buy it for you." I smiled politely. "That's very generous, but you just gave me that necklace last month, remember? I'm not really into material things." She patted my hand like I was some angelic daughter-in-law, and my heart did an awkward little flip. But then the room went dead silent as a crisp, authoritative voice called out from above, 300 million. Gasps. Whiplash. Heads snapped toward the second-floor balcony. I followed their gaze, but the lighting made it hard to see the bidder's face. Still, the murmurs around me said it all. "It's him," someone whispered. "The prince." And my heart sank. Chin-E. He bid 300 million. For that pink diamond. Publicly. In front of everyone. For Vanessa? My ears rang. I blinked, hoping I'd misunderstood. Maybe it was a joke? Maybe it wasn't for her? But then I caught a glimpse of Vanessa's glowing expression, her eyes locked on the diamond like it was her birthright. People started whispering behind me. "Isn't that Mia Sullivan's husband? How humiliating. She must feel awful. Buying a diamond for your wife's sister? Savage." I clenched my jaw and smiled like I wasn't dying inside. Huh. Joke's on them. Ethan didn't know I'd been cheating on him with Chin-E for 3 years straight. I almost laughed at the irony. But it still stung. I left the auction early, pretending to go to the bathroom, slipping out through the gallery hallway. That's when I saw him. The man in the smoky gray suit. The same one from earlier. Standing beneath a crystal chandelier, his presence so regal it made everyone else disappear. But this time I saw his face. And I stopped breathing. It was Chin-E. My Chin-E. My wolf dog. Except it wasn't. It was Ethan. My husband. The mole at the corner of his eye, the curve of his lips, the way he slightly tilted his head, all of it matched. I froze, heart hammering. My mind tried to reject it, to make it make sense. Was I hallucinating? Was Chin-E impersonating Ethan? No, Ethan's secretary, Nathan Reed, walked up beside him just then. I saw him bow and say, "Prince, we've packed the pink Polaris for you." Chin-E, whatever name he was going by, smiled faintly. Good. The sound of his voice made my knees weak. Ching-Si was standing right there. And if Nathan was real, and Chung Si was real, and the watch was real, then Chin-E was Ethan. The husband I'd called a dog, a loser, an absentee ghost. The man I thought I'd been cheating with was the very man I was married to. I felt the blood drain from my face. My vision blurred. My knees buckled, and I turned on my heel, practically sprinting back to the car. I couldn't breathe. Everything I had said, every insult, every curse, every complaint, I had said it to his face. For 3 years. And now he knew. Of course he knew. I clutched my phone in the backseat of the car, fingers trembling. A new message popped up. From him. Mia, are you done with your event? I saw a diamond today. Thought I'd turn it into a necklace for you. I love you. I wanted to scream. He was still pretending? After all that? I didn't reply. I just stared at the ceiling and tried not to hyperventilate. And when I got home, it got worse. The house was in chaos. Mrs. Grace and the other staff were running around, moving furniture, fluffing pillows, lighting candles. What's going on? I asked. Madam, she beamed, the master said he's moving in tonight to live with you. I almost fainted. At 6:30 sharp, Ethan Chin-Yu walked through the door. He'd changed clothes, wiped off the arrogance, and wrapped his entire face in bandages like some mummy trying to cosplay as someone else. He joined me at the dinner table, calm and polite, watching me eat like nothing had happened. I couldn't even swallow. Every bite tasted like betrayal. Don't like the food? He asked, chin resting in his hand, eyes teasing. No, I muttered. I just don't feel hungry watching you like that. He laughed, like we were in some romantic comedy and not the psychological thriller my life had become. I barely touched my plate, then excused myself and fled upstairs. I sat on the bed, phone in hand, trying to figure out how to confront him without combusting. Just then, he messaged me again. Mia, why aren't you replying? As if we weren't just downstairs together. As if he hadn't been gaslighting me for 3 entire years. Then came the footsteps. He pushed open the door without knocking. Done showering? I nodded. Shook my head. Nodded again. You good? He asked, walking over and turning off the lights like we were newlyweds cuddling after a long day. He pulled back the covers and climbed in beside me. I froze, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But nothing happened. He just lay there. I couldn't take it. Was he pretending again? Did he think I was stupid? Did he get off on watching me squirm? I tossed and turned, but eventually exhaustion won. I dozed off only to wake up to the sensation of fingers unbuttoning my top. I gasped, snapped my eyes open, and turned to glare at him. Chin-E beast. He didn't even flinch. He leaned in, kissed me softly, and whispered with a chuckle, "Your cursing is so sexy." I pinched him. Hard. You lied to me. For 3 years. I didn't, he said, letting me hit him. I told you my name was Chin-E. That wasn't a lie. You made me think you were a damn escort. You assumed, he said, voice low, gently stroking my hair. I never said it. You didn't deny it either. I bit his shoulder, neck, anything I could reach. You're evil. You enjoyed watching me embarrass myself, didn't you? Mia, he murmured, holding me tight. I swear, I was just afraid you'd hate me if you knew the truth. But everything else, all the love, the time, the way I spoiled you, none of that was fake. I stilled. My heart cracked a little. And Vanessa? She's just a family acquaintance, he said. There was never anything between us. Really? Really? He placed my hand over his heart. You're the only one I've ever loved like this. I didn't believe him completely. Not yet. But part of me wanted to. The way he'd treated me for the past 3 years, even when I was a mess, even when I pushed him away, he always stayed. And the media? I asked. Anyone who slandered you is already handled, he said. No one will ever disrespect you again. Not Vanessa, not my family, not the public. My chest tightened. What about our wedding day? You left. I didn't want to, he said quietly. I had my reasons. But I never stopped thinking about you. I bit my lip. I don't want to hear excuses. Then I won't give you any, he said gently. Just a promise this time, I'm not going anywhere. The next morning, I woke up to the ridiculous sensation of being carried bridal style down the stairs, and no, it wasn't a dream. It was real Ethan freaking Carter, the man I had just accused of being a lying, manipulative dog. Was holding me like I was made of clouds and whispering nonsense like, Nan Mien doesn't let me carry her anymore. Has she been letting someone else do it instead? I wanted to sink into the floor and die of embarrassment because just as I was squirming to get down, who should walk into the house but Mrs. Carter herself, probably here to check if her golden son and black sheep daughter-in-law had burned the house down yet, and instead, she found us frozen mid-step in the world's most awkward post-scandal cuddle position. Her eyes immediately lighting up with unholy delight as she waved both hands in mock surrender and grinned. Oh, I didn't see anything. Go on, just pretend I wasn't here. I'll be leaving now, carry on. And then she literally turned and walked out, leaving behind the ghost of my dignity to mourn in silence, while Ethan laughed softly like he was enjoying every second of this mess. I glared at him, fully ready to launch into a rage, but he just kissed the top of my head and mumbled, "Guess Mom knew about us long ago." I narrowed my eyes. Did she? He just smirked and pinched my cheek like I was the cutest joke he'd ever told. That night, just when I thought things couldn't get more chaotic, the Shin Group's official media accounts all lit up at once, posting a glossy, high-resolution photo that nearly made me throw my phone across the room. A candid shot of me in a white designer gown, sitting gracefully on a velvet sofa, wearing the infamous pink diamond Polaris around my neck like it hadn't cost someone $300 million, and there in front of me, half kneeling with one hand holding mine and the other resting on my knee, was Ethan, looking up at me with a gaze so soft and devoted it made my heart hiccup and my brain short-circuit. The caption read, "For her, only the rarest in the world will do." I wanted to scream, or cry, or melt into the floor. This wasn't a necklace. It was a full-blown declaration of war on my heart. And, just like that, all of New York exploded. My phone blew up with calls, texts, tags, and more screenshots than I could count. Everyone who'd ever doubted me, gossiped behind my back, or pitted me for being the invisible Mrs. Carter now had to watch me become the diamond-wearing center of attention. It felt so surreal, I almost forgot how pissed I still was at Ethan for playing the longest prank in marital history. He, of course, strutted around the house like he'd won some kind of grand prize, acting all smug and affectionate while I tried to remember how to breathe like a normal person. I locked myself in my room for some space, but Ethan knocked twice, opened the door anyway, and walked in holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Peace offering," he said. "Marshmallows included." I took it, but narrowed my eyes. "Is this your way of apologizing for lying to me for 3 years straight?" "It's a start," he said with a sheepish smile, sitting beside me. "Also, I sent that necklace photo to every outlet in the city because I wanted everyone to know you're mine." I choked on the marshmallow foam. "Excuse me?" "Mine," he repeated, completely unbothered. In case anyone was still confused. I stared at him, absolutely speechless, because how did he manage to be the most infuriating and intoxicating man alive at the same time? I finally huffed, "What if I don't want to be yours anymore?" He tilted his head, that classic Carter confidence dripping off him. "Then I guess I'll just have to win you back again." I hated how that made my heart flutter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering how I'd gotten from lonely ghost wife to national diamond princess overnight. And just when I finally started to drift off, I heard footsteps. Ethan again, crawling into bed like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Don't worry," he whispered, pulling the blanket over us. "I'm not going anywhere." And he didn't. The next few days were a blur of bizarre domestic bliss. He started waking me up with fresh coffee, sending me dumb, flirty texts from his office like we were high schoolers, and worst of all, he kept spoiling Mediziner deliveries, spontaneous brunches, bubble baths already drawn when I got home. And don't even get me started on the foot massages. I mean, I should have been suspicious, right? But he seemed sincere. Like this was who he'd been the whole time, just hiding under a different name. One night, While lying in bed with his arm lazily draped over my waist, he asked out of nowhere, Mien Mien, if I told you I knew everything from the beginning, your rants, your complaints, the way you called me ugly, would you have still stayed with me? My blood ran cold. I turned slowly to face him. You did know. He smiled. Of course. I was always there. I wanted to throw a pillow at him and kiss him at the same time. You absoluto, you have any idea how many times I called you names behind your back? Too many, he said, grinning. But I deserved it. Damn right you did. But, he added, kissing my forehead, you also called me baby and sweetheart and said you loved me when you thought I was just some broke guy with good abs. That's gotta count for something. I covered my face with my hands. I hate you. Liar. I do. Shut up and go to sleep. You shut up and come here. We ended up kissing until the sun came up. It was stupid and reckless and magical, and I didn't want it to end. But real life had a way of crashing back in at full speed. A few days later, I was at brunch with Mrs. Carter, sipping overpriced mimosas and pretending to care about some gallery opening, when she casually mentioned that Vanessa had moved out of the Blake family estate and was now staying in a luxury apartment downtown. Good, I said with a little too much enthusiasm. Mrs. Carter raised an eyebrow. You really don't like her, do you? I shrugged. She tried to ruin my marriage and leaked those photos to the press. She's lucky I didn't sue her for defamation. Mrs. Carter mused. You know, for a long time, I thought she'd be the one Ethan would marry. But now, I see it clearly. You're the one who keeps him grounded. He listens to you. You bring out the human in him. I nearly dropped my fork. Wait, what? Don't get a big head about it, she added, sipping her tea. You still chew too loudly. I laughed so hard I cried. Later that night, when Ethan came home, I tackled him with a hug. What's this for? He asked, grinning. Nothing, I mumbled into his chest. I just love you, you big stupid liar. He kissed the top of my head. I love you too, Mrs. Carter. And for the first time since our wedding, I actually believed it. But of course, this wasn't the end. There were still questions I hadn't asked. Still secrets Ethan hadn't told me. And I had a sneaking suspicion that Vanessa wasn't done yet. I should have known peace in this house was temporary, like one of those hotel robes that feel luxurious until you realize it's not yours to keep, and sure enough. It started with a knock on the door that afternoon while Ethan was still at the office and I was lounging in his t-shirt, eating sea salt chocolate and rewatching old crime dramas, and there stood Mrs. Grace with that hesitant, don't freak out look that always preceded chaos. Madam Miss Vanessa is here, and my jaw actually cracked from how hard I clenched it because wasn't she supposed to be exiled to her little glass penthouse by now? Sipping guilt and pretending to be misunderstood? But no, there she was in my foyer, dressed like a goddamn swan in all white, eyes watery and voice gentle. Mia, can we talk? Just the two of us, and for one beautiful second, I considered throwing my chocolate at her and going back to my show, but then curiosity got the better of me, and I nodded, leading her into the sunroom where I could at least keep one hand near a sharp decorative pineapple just in case. She sat gracefully, folding her hands like we were on a talk show, and began with a sigh. I didn't want it to turn out this way. You have to understand, Ethan and your families go way back. We were meant to be married. I raised an eyebrow. Cool story. Too bad fate had other plans. She blinked, probably not expecting me to be so blunt, but quickly recovered. You don't know what it was like, watching him get taken away from me, forced to marry someone else just because you had the right bloodline. You mean because I was actually the Blake family's real daughter? I asked sweetly. Right. Forgot that part. Her lips tightened. You don't belong in his world. Then maybe he should stop kissing me like I'm his whole world, I replied, deadpan. Her eyes flashed with something sharp, and for the first time, I saw her mask crack. You're destroying him, she hissed. You're distracting him from the empire he's supposed to build. And what are you doing? I asked. Helping him build that empire with your legs? She gasped like I'd slapped her, but honestly, I wasn't even warmed up yet. You had your chance, Vanessa. He made his choice. You don't get to rewrite the ending just because the audience didn't clap for your act. He'll realize one day, she whispered, standing up, that you were just a mistake. And until that day, I said calmly, I'll keep wearing his shirts, sleeping in his bed, and spending his money. By now, I didn't escort her out, I had Mrs. Grace do it, which was honestly even better. When Ethan came home that evening, I told him about the visit, half expecting him to freak out, but he just sighed and kissed my temple. I'll handle her, he said, and I believed him. But a few days later, a news article broke online with suspicious timing. Ethan Carter's mysterious absence at Blake family event sparks rumors of feud. The accompanying photo showed Vanessa alone at a fundraiser, tearfully giving a speech about family duty while Ethan was noticeably absent. The comments were chaos, half of them blaming me for driving a wedge between childhood friends, and the other half defending me like this was some celebrity love triangle. I kept quiet, but it was getting harder to breathe. Ethan, however, remained maddeningly calm, shutting down press inquiries, blocking interview requests, and publicly reaffirming our marriage in a short but sweet press release. Mrs. Carter and I are very much in love. Kindly mind your own business. I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. That night, we sat on the rooftop terrace of the Carter estate, wine glasses in hand, the city glittering beneath us like a million secrets, and I finally asked the question that had haunted me since day one. Why did you leave the night we got married? Ethan was quiet for so long I thought he wasn't going to answer, but then he spoke, voice low and raw, because I was scared. Scared? I echoed. Of what? Me? No, he said, meeting my eyes. Of how much I already loved you. I stared at him, unsure if I was hearing him right. He ran a hand through his hair, the cool breeze tousling it even more. Vanessa and I. We were never in love. It was just what our families expected. But when I found out the real Blake daughter was you, and not her, it flipped everything. You weren't like them. You didn't pretend. You looked at me like I was human, not just the Carter heir. My throat tightened. So you ran. I didn't think I deserved you, he admitted. And I knew if I stayed, I'd ruin it somehow. So I left. But I never let go. I watched you. Protected you. I wanted to see if you'd be okay without me. And you were. You were strong, chaotic, gorgeous, and you drove me crazy. You mean you spied on me? I said flatly. Yes, he nodded shamelessly. And it made me fall even harder. I took a long sip of wine, unsure if I wanted to kiss him or throw him off the roof. You're insane, I muttered. But I'm yours, he replied, reaching for my hand. I didn't pull away. And when he leaned in to kiss me, I didn't stop him. Because despite everything, my heart still beat stupidly fast every time he looked at me like I was the only person in the universe. The next morning, I woke up tangled in his arms, sunlight pouring through the window, and for the first time in a long time, I felt still. Not angry. Not suspicious. Just present. Ethan was already awake, brushing his fingers down my spine like he was memorizing it. You should wear that diamond today, he murmured. Make the world jealous. I should wear a helmet, I replied. In case Vanessa tries to run me over with a car. He laughed. She's done. I've made it very clear. The only woman in my life now is you. And while I wanted to believe that, I also knew the final battle hadn't been fought. Because people like Vanessa didn't go down quietly. And when someone feels entitled to your life, they'll burn everything around you just to feel the warmth. But I wasn't scared anymore. I had survived the cold. I had learned to walk in heels through fire. And now? Now I had something to protect. Something to fight for. Not Ethan. Not the diamond. But myself. And I wasn't going to let anyone rewrite my story again. Not even fate. It happened on a Thursday, because of course it did, just when I thought the chaos had cooled and Ethan and I had slipped into this weirdly functional rhythm of stolen kisses in the hallway, late-night takeout in bed, and mornings where I actually woke up smiling instead of calculating exits, and then fate decided I'd been happy for too long, and I got the call from Mrs. Grace, while I was doing a face mask and watching a baking competition, her voice whisper shaky through the phone, "Madam, you might want to come down." The police are at the gate, and for a split second, I thought Ethan had finally been arrested for corporate fraud or maybe murdering a stalker ex. But no, it was worse, because when I got there, heels clacking across marble like some bad soap opera entrance, there was Vanessa, standing outside in full drama queen mode, tears streaking down her cheeks, blood dripping from her arm, and two officers by her side asking if I knew anything about a domestic assault that had taken place involving my husband. And the second they said those words, I actually laughed. Not a cute giggle, but that manic, unhinged kind of laugh that made the older officer subtly reach for his pepper spray, and I calmly turned to Vanessa and said, "So, now you're faking injuries to get attention," and she sobbed harder, clutching her sleeve. "He hit me, Mia." I went to talk to him, to say goodbye, and he shoved Meluk what he did, and I'll admit, the scratch on her arm looked real. But I'd also watched enough true crime documentaries to know what desperation looked like when someone realized they'd lost for good, and I was done playing nice, so I stepped closer, stared her straight in the eye, and said, "Did you happen to scratch yourself with your diamond earring again, Vanessa? Because we both know Ethan wouldn't lay a hand on you. That's not his style. But slander? Slander is yours." The officers looked uneasy, sensing the storm brewing, and I smiled sweetly, turning to them. "You're welcome to investigate whatever you like. We have cameras at every entrance and hallway. Would you like footage?" Vanessa paled instantly, and one officer muttered, "That won't be necessary if she doesn't want to press charges." "Oh, but I do," I replied, tilting my head. "Because now she's threatening my family's safety with false accusations." "That's a felony, officer, isn't it?" They started backing off, gently pulling Vanessa away while she cried something about Ethan being brainwashed, and I just stood there, arms crossed, watching the final threads of her delusion unravel like silk. That night, Ethan came home early, pulling me into his chest before I could even say a word, his voice muffled in my hair. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that," and I held him tighter, whispering, "You think that was the first time someone's tried to break me?" And he just kissed my forehead like I was the bravest idiot he'd ever met. A week passed, then two, and the rumors faded, replaced by newer scandals and fresher gossip, and just when I was finally beginning to breathe again, thinking maybe this really was my life now, soft love, hard laughter. Warm coffee with extra cream. I came home from a meeting to find the lights dimmed, candles glowing along the hallway like something out of a Pinterest board, and Ethan waiting at the end of it, dressed in black, holding a small velvet box in his hand. Not the cliché kind, but something sleeker, sharper, something distinctly him, and my heart went still, not racing this time, just pausing like it knew whatever came next was going to change everything, and he said, "Mia, no baby, no sugar-sweet nickname, just my name like a vow. You married me 3 years ago when I didn't deserve it, when I was too scared to show up and too arrogant to explain, and since then, I've lied, disappeared, and made you question everything you knew about love. But if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life making up for every second I wasn't there," and he opened the box to reveal a necklace, not a ring but a custom-crafted piece centered around the pink diamond Polaris, redesigned into a delicate locket that held a photo of the two of us from our first official public appearance, smiling like fools, completely in love, and I forgot how to speak, just nodded, then cried, then kissed him like I was anchoring myself to the moment. Because I knew I was never going to forget it. We never threw a big ceremony, never renewed vows in front of cameras or fireworks, but we didn't need to. That moment was ours, raw and real and more intimate than any wedding ever could be. From then on, life didn't become magically perfect. This isn't a fairy tale, and I'm not Cinderella, but it did become real and beautiful and ours. Ethan learned how to knock before entering rooms, and I stopped threatening to smother him with a pillow when he stole my last French fry. We still fought sometimes, still got stubborn and moody and messy, but the difference now was that we always came back to each other, always chose each other, even on the worst days. One night, while we were sitting on the balcony drinking wine straight from the bottle, I asked him, Would you have still fallen in love with me if I hadn't mistaken you for an escort that night? And he smirked, pulling me into his lap. Are you kidding? That was the hottest moment of my entire life, and I laughed so hard I almost spilled the wine, slapping his chest. You're impossible, and he just held me tighter, whispering against my neck, maybe. But I'm your impossible. And that's really how it ends, not with a grand finale or an epic twist, but with slow mornings and shared playlists and a man who kisses my shoulder while I brush my teeth. Not because he's perfect, but because he stayed. Because after all the lies, the abs, the diamonds, and the chaos, he chose me, and more importantly, I finally chose myself. So if anyone ever asks me what it feels like to fall in love with your husband after marrying him by mistake and cheating on him with himself for 3 years without knowing, I'll say this. It feels like forgiveness wrapped in laughter, like fate disguised as a wool dog, like falling in love with someone who was there the whole time just waiting for you to look up.